Salute, salute, salute to everybody. This is your boy King Jr. Got some more boxing news for y'all. So, Terence Crawford was recently on the Breakfast Club, and they asked him a few questions about Errol Spence on how this fight is going to go. And a couple of questions that stuck out to me that Terence Crawford had talked about was the fact that they asked him, Charlemagne, the guy, they asked him, well, Errol Spence just looks stronger than you. And Terence Crawford says, well, he may look strong, but that's not telling me how strong he really is. That doesn't mean that he's strong. And Terence Crawford made a reference years ago that a lot of people heard of. Just because you bigger, that doesn't mean stronger. And that's what Charlemagne the guy was saying. He looks bigger, but that doesn't possibly say that Errol is stronger. So, in my opinion, they asked him also about the two fights, Yuriorkis Gamboa and Igis Kavaliauskas. We know that Yuriorkis Gamboa was a top 5 best pound for pound guy at that time. I think Terence Crawford fought him like 8 to 10 years ago when he was at 135, and he knocked out Yuriorkis Gamboa at his best. So he moves to 140 to fight Igis Kavaliauskas, who was the mandatory, no, 147, I believe, 147, to fight Igis Kavaliauskas that was his mandatory for the WBO. And Terence Crawford struggled in that fight against Igis Kavaliauskas. Even Terence Crawford is on record stating that, yes, I struggled against Igis Kavaliauskas, and also he stated that Igis Kavaliauskas was his toughest opponent at that time. And Terence Crawford, you know, a lot of people feel like, well, he's got this plan, he's got that plan, he's got this plan. Well, Terence Crawford game plan for everybody is when he gets hit with a punch, right? Let's say the opponent is winning or something, right? Terence Crawford switches to that southpaw stance, and he makes a lot of adjustments in the southpaw stance. I will give him credit. Terence Crawford makes a lot of adjustments when he steps into that southpaw stance more than orthodox. If you guys haven't seen it, watch Terence Crawford fight from the beginning when he started welterweight to the end. Terence Crawford does not look too good in the orthodox stance, in my opinion. When he gets in the southpaw stance, he makes a lot of adjustments off the fly, and he gets their opponent out of there. I have to give Terence Crawford his respect on that. So, the point of the matter here is, guys, that he cannot have a moment where he got hurt by Igis Kavaliauskas and basically want to fight his fight. You can't fight a fighter's fight all the time. It's something similar like Teofimo Lopez fighting to your opponent's level at a certain extent, and you're not giving your all because you're trying to fight his level to try to prove something that you can beat him at his same level. You don't want to do that if you're Terence Crawford. I told you guys before, in order for Terence Crawford to beat Errol Spence Jr., the number one thing he will have to do is outbox Errol Spence Jr. He cannot get into a dogfight with Errol Spence Jr. like he tried to get with Igis Kavaliauskas, because he stated that he really didn't get knocked down. It felt like he got pushed. But at the same time, I looked at the fight. He did get knocked down by Igis Kavaliauskas. Igis Kavaliauskas clipped him with a good punch, and he got knocked down. And if you go back to the Gamboa fight, he got clipped by Gamboa. Clipped with a good punch, but he was still standing on his feet. Terence Crawford, when he gets hit with a punch, he's on wobbly legs. Everybody wants to throw the scenario where Errol Spence got hit with that big punch by Udanis Ugas, where Errol Spence Jr. got hit by a punch that he didn't see, and he still was on his feet. A lot of guys that get hit by a punch that they don't see don't stand on their feet, guys. Remember that. So, Terence Crawford, in my opinion, cannot let the mental game get to him in this Errol Spence Jr. fight. He's got to put all the Errol Spence Jr. fans aside and say, look, I don't care what any of you Errol Spence Jr. fans is. I know I can beat this guy. This guy seems to be the top at the welterweight division. I'm going to be over him when I beat him. I'm the top at the welterweight division. That's the mentality Terence Crawford has to come in. You can't go in there and listen to Errol Spence. Oh, I bet you won't fight Errol Spence. I bet you don't got more dog than Errol Spence. I bet you won't do this to Errol Spence, because that's when mental game starts playing, and that's when the favor of Errol Spence winning the fight plays. But Terence Crawford is the favorite to win the fight. But I think Errol Spence beats him, because I think Errol Spence is going to break this man will. I think Errol Spence is going to let Terence Crawford fight his fight. And it's going to be the worst mistake in Terence Crawford's career, because if you look at it, Terence Crawford is not a guy that you don't want to fight. Really, he shouldn't be fighting in the mid-range game. He should be fighting outside and outboxing Errol Spence like he was at 140, because Terence Crawford, you have nearly a 75-inch arm reach, dude. You can outbox this man. Just because he's taller than you, You have longer arms than him. If you got longer arms than your opponent, you want the best ability to try to work a little bit in that mid range and do the rest on outbox him. If you outbox Errol Spence, if the knockout comes, that's great. Do not fight this man fight. You will get knocked out, and I think that's what's going to happen. Terence Crawford is going to prove to the world that he has more dog than Errol Spence Jr., and it's going to backfire in his face, and he's going to get himself knocked out. If he do not listen to Bomac advice, if he gets too reckless, because he got too reckless in that Aegis Kavaliakis fight, not listening to Bomac on a few times, and if he don't listen to Bomac, because Bomac is a hell of a trainer, I don't like some of the stuff he says, but Bomac is a hell of a trainer, he is going to get knocked out. Bomac has a game plan to beat Errol Spence. Derrick James has a game plan to beat Errol Spence. The game plan is simple. You outbox Errol Spence. You turn Errol Spence. You move Errol Spence. Errol Spence has great footwork, but Errol Spence is not a mover. He's kind of want to stay in that pocket range and try to control the distance in his distance so he can beat you up and slow you down from trying to outbox him. That's kind of how Errol Spence is. Errol Spence is more like he cuts the ring off way too fast. Like, he's very good at cutting the ring off on his opponents. But Errol Spence knows how to box because he's very fundamentally sound. And I think the fundamentally sound of Errol Spence Jr., the defense, all the stuff, all the basic tools of Errol Spence Jr. is going to beat to possess Terence Crawford. Because Terence Crawford is going to try to prove a point. If Terence Crawford utilized that orthodox stance a little bit more than the southpaw stance, I would like to see Terence Crawford try to switch it up every once in a while. You know, you throw a couple of combinations in the mid-range games and go back to the orthodox stance and mix it up. But Terence Crawford is not a switch hitter anymore. He just doesn't switch hit anymore. And a YouTuber, a reliable boxer source, asked both guys about both of you guys have a big advantage in the southpaw stance. And they was explaining their game plans. You guys go check out those YouTubers. I won't say their names, but you guys go check out those YouTubers. And he asked them both of the questions about the southpaw stance on what advantage to take on both these guys, on Errol Spence and Terence Crawford, their game plan for the southpaw stance. And I can see this fight happening. Terence Crawford staying in orthodox stance probably 3 to 4 rounds, and the rest of the fight he's going to twist the southpaw. It's just going to play a big advantage in Errol Spence's game, and I think Errol Spence is going to be too much for Terence Crawford to handle. And I just think if you want to talk about who's stronger, well, knockouts really don't prove strength. Yes, a lot of guys, if they get touched in the chin, they have weak chins. That's some power. But what's crazy in strength is, like Errol Spence, is when you break somebody's ribs, when you break somebody's orbital bone, when you break somebody's nose, and all those body parts that is important, I think that proves who's stronger. In my opinion, I think Errol Spence Jr. is stronger when it comes to boxing, when it comes to wrestling, because we know Terence Crawford used to like wrestling and grappling. Terence Crawford is stronger in that category. That's how you would literally debunk this. But any guy that's breaking your eye sockets and breaking your rib bones and all this other stuff, making you leak blood out your eyes for 3 days like he did Udanis Ugas, that ought to tell you who's really strong. And me personally, Errol Spence is stronger. So with that being said, guys, I ain't going to keep this video too long. It is what it is at the end of the day. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. On your way in, on your way out, this is your boy King Jr. We will be back with some more boxing news. I'm out of here, y'all. Peace.